Gamers of the Underworld. Chapters 106 to 120. Chapter 106. Isn't it normal to have negative numbers in games? Sherlock published the second beta announcement and received numerous replies from a huge group of gamers. Hanlin Privy Council. This is a game that allows you to be great without spending money and spoiling your health. Let's play together. I'll wait for you. Midnight Sprouts. Award me second beta gamer status, and I'll join you. Yaoshan Spirit. Are the newly added servers from To-Do? Violet Snow Inferno. Casual gameplay, carrying bricks, and overtime carrying bricks. Endearing difficulty. The settings of all veterans and novices will be reset, and they will be badly beaten in the game. No hardship. The gamers will spoil their health after playing. Sunny graphic style. There is no sunlight in the dungeon. You are lousy game producers. Leather Bear in Abandoned House. I have second beta gamer status. Do you want to see the gaming capsule? Add my WeChat account ~4x. Secular Moon. The content posted by the previous gamer is extremely inappropriate. I have blacklisted him. Metal-skinned ape. I have a dissertation on the day of the first beta test. I cannot protect Eternal Kingdom. Sikong Yi Bin. Be humane, game producers. After changing the reputation system, we have to play harder and spoil our health. I object. Wait. Second beta gamer status? Eternal Kingdom is fun. It will not spoil my health. Lonely Without Regrets. Thank you, game producers, for the gaming capsule. I have thought of my game ID. It is called At Noon. Veteran Peasant. Here I come. Peasant. W. Get lost. At Noon is the name my buddy wanted. Stir-fried dish van. Hello everyone. I obtained second beta gamer status. My group is adding members. Please add QQXXXXX. Join me if you are game. Sherlock looked at the comments on the forum. They were complimenting Eternal Kingdom and adored Sherlock. He was very pleased. He closed the forum page and accessed the administrator interface of the official website. He looked through the comments of the second beta gamers. Gender. Female. Age. 20. Reason for applying. I am willing to sacrifice 10 years of my deskmate's life in exchange for second beta gamer status. Sherlock looked at the particulars of the applicant and clicked on the next one. Gender. Male. Age. 19. Reason for applying. I have liver cirrhosis. Gender. Male. Age. 20. Reason for applying. I lost my hands. The selected gamers look promising. I have full confidence in the future of Eternal Kingdom, Sherlock said after reading through the reasons for applying, as stated by the selected gamers. It's their honor that they're able to help Lord Sherlock fulfill your dream. If 2,000 gamers access the dungeon, with our current situation, we'll face tremendous strain on resources. Lord Sherlock, do you still have money? Brew asked. The anti-mana cloth was bought using my dungeon mortgage. Do you think I have money? Sherlock spread out his hands and said, we'll need more anti-mana cloth to transport the magical items from the ruins. If you want me to provide the second beta gamers with equipment, material, and more NPCs, I'm unable to do that. Lord Sherlock, I know this request is difficult for you. If we don't have sufficient preparation, with 2,000 gamers, there might be chaos. If it's due to practical reasons, then I suggest we use the servers to limit the number of online gamers. For example, limit it to 500 gamers and then gradually increase the number. Brew said, it's not necessary, Sherlock said directly. Didn't you mention game playability before? If we limit the online gamers to 500 even though we've selected 2,000 gamers, no matter how attractive the dungeon is, the gamers will complain and rage quit en masse. The situation isn't as serious as you think. I believe the gamers will solve the problems by themselves. They are very intelligent and smart, enough so to protect my 20 million magic stones with their lives. Sherlock was very confident in the gamers. He said, we only need to create order and let them carry bricks peacefully. We also need to provide some gameplay varieties for their entertainment. Currently, we only have the Spider's Lair, which has almost been wiped clean by the first beta gamers, and Ancient Ruins, which can be emptied by the second beta gamers within a few days, and the Spectre College Instance Dungeon, which can only accommodate 65 teams at most, Bruce said. Lord Sherlock, we need new areas, instance dungeons, monsters, and gameplay varieties. If the gamers are reduced to carrying bricks, they won't be happy. Don't worry, I'm already considering these issues, Sherlock said. The area around Eternal Kingdom is still unexplored. There are many tunnels and cave creatures. Since the dungeon was upgraded to level 2, we'll assimilate the area under the dungeon's perimeter. The area can be the gamer's entertainment spot in the future. Though there are 2,000 gamers, they are goblins without basic training. The killing rate of the underworld creatures is slower than their reproduction rate. The creatures can be the gamer's hunting ground for a short period of time. This area can be opened up after they have emptied the ancient ruins. We don't have to worry too much. Aren't the underworld creatures too strong for the gamers? Perhaps there might even be magical beasts. Brew said with concern. Isn't that good? They can be plot bosses and make the gamers happy. Sherlock clapped his hands and said, after updating the reputation system, the reputation points that were accumulated from carrying bricks will be deducted and driven into the negative zone after death. Without reputation points, they can't do a lot of things, so they have to carry bricks diligently. Even the rich gamers will have to join the ranks of the brick laborers. This will form a positive feedback cycle. Wait, Lord Sherlock intends to deduct their reputation points and make them negative? Brew was taken by surprise. Why, isn't it a normal procedure? When I play Anno 1800, my income is always negative. Isn't it normal to have negative numbers in computer games? Sherlock slapped the table to prove his point. This is indeed feasible, Brew replied after some pondering. There was a knock at the door. Simba, Moros, Mufasa, and Brainiac appeared at the entrance. Come in. The 4 NPCs entered consecutively. Simba asked, Lord Sherlock, why are you looking for us? Nothing much. It's almost time for salary payment at the end of the month. I would like to discuss your work and talk about the future of Eternal Kingdom. Sherlock beckoned them to sit down, but they looked at the only chair in the room and were dazed. Sherlock said, Eternal Kingdom will be recruiting creatures in the next 2 days, and you'll be busier. Do you understand? Brainiac, do not ask, I know what you're thinking. Just work normally. Good, I'll go through some simple work training. Number 1. No matter what the dungeon servants say, ignore them. Chapter 107. The Plan of the Veterans Mentoring Novices. Good, today's meeting shall end now. Let us look forward to the cute goblins who are coming in 2 days. Everyone go back and rest. Keep stock of the items in the warehouse. Meeting's over. Sherlock clapped his hands to beckon the 4 of them to leave. Moros, Simba, Mufasa, and Brainiac walked out of the dungeon core. What did Lord Sherlock say? His words were cliché. It wasn't their first day in Eternal Kingdom, and they already knew. The most important thing was that Lord Sherlock mentioned the recruitment of new goblins in 2 days. Lord Sherlock is recruiting again. He's very powerful, Moros said to Simba and Mufasa. Finally, we have normal goblins coming over. What if I'm unable to prepare the meals in time? No problem, let them eat clay. Don't prepare exotic cuisines. Go. Come to my house for a drink. Let's take stock of the warehouse tonight. The 3 of them chatted as they walked into the distance. Only Brainiac was left standing at the entrance of the dungeon core main hall. Brainiac looked at the 3 of them enter the house and the few goblins piled in a corner. He gazed at the nearby goblin living quarters before leaving in silence. Eternal Kingdom was in a rare state of serenity. For 2 days only, Little Fairy sat cross-legged on her bed. She watched as 2 evil black iron dwarves and an evil gnome walked past her. They were speaking in loud voices. Behind them was a skeleton, an evil lich. Little Fairy only heard about liches in stories told to her when she was young. They were the evilest of undead creatures. They possessed the power to control obnoxious dead spirits. They used all ways to torture living creatures to death and turn them into their slaves. The 2 black iron dwarves and the gnome didn't like to talk to him. Even Little Fairy could see that. Little Fairy shrunk back unconsciously. Then, she squatted under the bed and stared at the evil lich as he passed by the flower bed. How terrifying, Little Fairy muttered to herself when the lich was far away. Little Fairy squatted by the bed for a while. Then, she gazed at the empty flower bed. Only a few common underworld plants were growing. Even if they were used as ingredients for alchemy, they weren't of much use. To Little Fairy, using the plants as alchemy materials wasn't the end goal. Helping those who needed help was the end goal. The underworld creatures were not included. One of the plants looked ill. Little Fairy could feel it just by looking. If nothing was done, it would die tonight. Little Fairy lifted her head and surveyed the surroundings. Where was the dusty-looking goblin? Little Fairy couldn't find the goblin who was always at the flower bed. She looked at the dying plant and hesitated before extending her hand towards it. 3,000 reputation points, 3 silver coins, and an alias, Elite First Beta Gamer. Brew, am I too generous? Sherlock asked Brew as he browsed the forum. Brew hesitated and said, Lord Sherlock, I don't know how to respond correctly, but you are a qualified superior devil. There is no doubt about that. Brew quickly said, the rewards are sufficient, especially the alias, Elite First Beta Gamer. I believe the beta gamers will be extremely happy. I think so too. Sherlock nodded and continued browsing the forum. Since the maintenance and update started yesterday, Sherlock ordered Brew to cut off all Gama's connections. Sherlock summoned Simba, Mufasa, Moros, and Brainiac and reminded them to take note of certain things. Then, he continued browsing the forum. Sherlock wasn't obsessed with the silly forum members. He wanted to find constructive feedback to protect the stability of Dungeon, Eternal Kingdom. Sherlock obtained many good suggestions on the forum. Many of the updates were from their suggestions. As the second beta test was commencing, he had to take note and see if there were any loopholes or content to improve. He noticed a popular post on the forum. It was published by Not Wearing Pants, and it was titled, Dungeon Second Beta Test, First Beta Gamer's Plan of Veterans Mentoring Novices. Hello everyone, I'm Not Wearing Pants, Omega, The second beta test is commencing tomorrow. I congratulate the lucky gamers who obtained second beta gamer status. I look forward to protecting the beautiful, eternal kingdom with all of you. The underground spiders are looking forward to your presence too. Struck off. The purpose of this post is not to create a strategy guide for second beta gamers. For most of the strategy guides, you can refer to my previous posts or search for posts by Burning Chest Hair, Peasant, and Hemp Rope Technology in the forum. Most of them are valuable strategy guides. Even with many strategy guides, you will experience discomfort the first time entering the dungeon. We would like you to assimilate into our large family in Eternal Kingdom. You have to know how hardcore the game is and how unscrupulous the lousy producers are. It is also good to have a comprehensive knowledge of the accessible areas and content of the game. The first beta gamers created a voluntary group to mentor second beta novices for free. You can treat this as a mentorship system. I would like to announce the Veterans Mentoring Novices Plan. One-on-one mentoring is not practical due to the large number of gamers. I will match the first beta gamers to the novices according to their online duration and time period. This game does not allow you to use WeChat while playing. For detailed matching, we will inform you inside the second beta test. Everyone should first appear at the plaza in front of the Dungeon Lord main hall where we last went offline. Most of the first beta gamers were at the living quarters. To participate in this mentoring plan, please do not leave the plaza once you first manifest in the game. We will rush over to welcome you and provide on-the-spot mentoring. That is all. I feel like dying without playing Dungeon, Omega K. Chapter 108. The start of the second beta testing. Not Wearing Pants post attracted replies from many gamers. Stir-fried vegetable rice. Pants, are you interested in joining my guild? I have contacted over 100 second beta gamers who are familiar with strategy guides and are my forum friends. If you are willing, I will give you a leadership position and give you a monthly salary of 5,000 renminbi. How is that? Are you interested? Pure boy. The writer of the previous comment is very rich, 666. Leather bear. Rice bro, help me. Pants bro, help me. I am a weak girl with handicapped hands tilde, greater than underscore. Blizzard moon. The writer of the previous comment, let's play together. We have a small group with over 10 members. Fishless water 2333. My god, 100 gamers with monthly salaries. A rich gamer. Dirty == Lich King. I can't afford to antagonize them. Future recalling past events. I'm giving the first beta gamers 100 marks. Seems like I'm not the only one who's worried about the resource strain on the game, Lord Sherlock, Brew said as Sherlock finished reading the replies on the forum. Isn't that good? It's like having 100 free foremen, Sherlock said. I saw that they mentioned a guild. Will they organize a labor guild and make requests and give feedback? For example, better work conditions? No, though they'll organize guilds, they won't make requests and give feedback. The guilds will be more like the existence of a forum within the game. The gamers can freely exchange information, form teams, exchange items, or buy things at a discount, Bruce said. Anyway, the guilds will be like hobby clubs. Most of the guilds will have their own rules and a sense of honor and belonging. The guilds are gaming concepts that add to the game as fun. There might be conflicts among the guilds. Lord Sherlock will have to mediate the conflicts. After Sherlock considered Brew's words, he asked, "Brew, can we earn reputation points from them when they create guilds? That will make them work harder." It's not hard to do that. The guild system has always been a source of game contention. Lord Sherlock, we have to discuss this in greater details, Brew said. While waiting for Dungeon, Eternal Kingdom, in the dark, the gamers could access the official website or the discussion forum in the gaming capsule. On the discussion forum, many gamers replied to the post, "Second beta gamer waiting to chat." The content was simple. It's the second beta testing. Everyone will definitely lie down in the gaming capsule to browse the discussion forum. To relieve boredom, come in and chat. The gamers chatted enthusiastically. There is still a minute before the start of service. Wah, we haven't been online for 2 days. Will our characters have died of hunger? It would be very realistic if they died of hunger. It's highly possible. In the previous one-day maintenance, when all the first beta gamers went online, the first thing we did was mass eating. Interesting. Is everyone here a second beta gamer? I am a first beta gamer. Once you're in the game, do not run around. Wait for the first beta gamers to lead us. The service is up. We are entering the game. Make haste, make haste. In the darkness, a hand wearing a CK watch raised and pressed on the game activation button in the gaming capsule. Soon, the pages of the discussion forum and the official website were closed as the gamer's awareness slipped into the gaming world. A black entry interface without any music and only a few words. Please select gender, male, female, race, goblin, initial, affiliated dungeon, Eternal Kingdom, Lord Overseer, Lord Sherlock, face molding, confirm to proceed. A white magical teleport portal appeared in front of a crimson dungeon core. A green-skinned goblin walked out from the portal. At his side were rows of countless teleport portals from which goblins walked out. They had the same pants, and the female gender had an old tattered shirt. The goblin who had just walked out from the portal gaped at the 100% realistic world. The sounds of the excited chatting of other goblins filled his ear. This game is so realistic. So many of us? Are we touring a scenic area on Labor Day? It's so crowded. Can't we pass through each other? There's no chatting system? What about an automatic pathfinder? Mission guide? World map? DMN? There's nothing. Who's that silly dude? Didn't he hear about the hardcore online game, Dungeon, Eternal Kingdom? How did he obtain his second beta gamer status? I'm so happy. That's the veteran gamer, Raintia. I'm helping you with plant cultivation. Bring me with you. The skeleton standing at a distance, is he the NPC, Brainiac? Can I tap on his bones? Gosh, I've been thinking of doing that. The goblin stood at his location as he examined his fingers and surveyed the surrounding rowdy goblins. Though the goblin had seen pictures on the discussion forum, he was still astonished by the ultra-realistic environment. A notice appeared in front of this goblin. Welcome to the Eternal Kingdom dungeon. Underworld warrior, please confirm your name. The goblin was taken aback by the notice. A green word appeared above his head, Dragonborn. Who took Dragonborn? A nearby goblin shouted just as he confirmed his name. Another goblin shouted, Gosh. Surely. Yes, he's handsome. He has half of my real looks. This modeling of the NPC is superb. Though I've seen the pictures, I'm still astonished looking at the real character. Ah, Lord Sherlock, my husband. Dragonborn turned his head to look at the sudden booming screams of a group of gamers. A tall devil stood in front of the new gamers as his black eyes gazed down at them. That pair of eyes was devoid of emotion. My lowly servants, why aren't you pledging your loyalty to the great devil Lord Sherlock? You will obtain my mercy and bountiful rewards. Lord Sherlock said, Chapter 109. Look, a veteran. Shirley, don't run around. I can't take a screen capture properly. I have to find a good angle. Can you help me take a screen capture? I want to snuggle up with Shirley. What's up after the declaration of loyalty? Gosh, is this the mission for carrying bricks? I want to kill the legendary underground spiders. Where are the spiders? Where's the blacksmith shop? I want the best sword in town. Wah, bro, aren't you afraid of being hacked to death by the first beta gamers? You're bad. A group of 1,000 gamers stood at the plaza outside the Dungeon Core main hall and chatted enthusiastically. It was fortunate that Sherlock had planned the dungeon with a grand vision in mind. Nevertheless, with thousands of goblins in the central plaza, it looked crowded. The feeling was like, it's like seeing junior high students gathering at a field before doing broadcast exercises. It's nostalgic, Bruce said with fondness, though he quickly said to Sherlock, I feel that only if Lord Sherlock stands here will you be able to control the situation. I didn't summon them to let them take pictures with me. Sherlock stood at the plaza and saw a continuous flow of new gamers coming out from the teleport portals. They followed Bruce's instructions to kneel down and swear allegiance. An extremely loyal gamer knelt down on both his legs and kowtowed 3 times as he muttered to himself. Though Brew had assigned them missions to carry bricks and other miscellaneous activities, the gamers who went directly to work were few in number. Most of the second beta gamers were still astonished by the unique experience. The astonishment of the highly realistic game world. The gamers were attracted to the trash carried by the first beta gamers from the ancient ruins. They were even interested in the stone slab on the floor. They would take half a day to examine them in detail. Not to mention the crazy chattering of the goblins after they gathered at the plaza. Even when they received missions from Brew, they weren't in a hurry to complete them. This was not a 2D, nor was it a 3D game with a mission panel and a small figure on the screen. This was not a game that gamers could follow with mission tips, look at the world map, depend on an automatic pathfinder, and close their eyes to complete the missions. Most of the second beta gamers intended to wait for their first beta mentors. In such a hardcore game, without a mentor's guidance, the novices would have to endure unnecessary hardships. Dragonborn looked at the nearby living and breathing goblins who had eyes and noses. Those fantastical creatures who would only appear in games or cinema were now standing in front of him. Of course, their appearances were slightly different from what he had seen. The feeling was like traveling to another world. It was not like playing a game. Just like what the veterans were saying, this is a game. This is not a game. No matter who the gamer was, he would have this feeling the first time he entered Dungeon, Eternal Kingdom. Dragonborn looked dazed at the numerous goblins. He wondered what he should be doing when a system notice appeared in his mind. Novice Tutorial Mission. Carrying Bricks, Daily Mission. Mission Description. The development of Eternal Kingdom requires the participation of every citizen. Do not expect anyone to help you construct beautiful buildings. You are required to carry every brick and rock used for construction. Mission Goal. Carry 100 excavated diamond seam to Simba, who is located at the blacksmith shop. Mission Reward. 100 reputation points, 50 bronze coins. No map? No mission route indication? Where was the blacksmith shop? Dragonborn was puzzled. He grabbed someone and asked, Bro, where is the blacksmith shop? The goblin with the name Take a Spear Hit pointed at the bobbing heads in the distance and shouted, Do you see that wall? Yes, that's Shirley. The wall that the devil NPC is standing at has the Eternal Kingdom map drawn by the first beta gamers. The map is also on the discussion forum. Don't go offline to look at the map. With so many gamers walking around, you might be stomped to death. Stomped to death? Dragonborn was shocked, and he quickly asked, The character's not protected after I go offline? I am surprised, bro. Didn't you read the strategy guides on the forum before participating in the second beta testing? The forum members who are yearning for second beta gamer status will smear you to death if they learn about this. Take a Spear Hit looked sincere as he said, I abstained from self-pleasure for 3 days. I entered the gaming capsule after taking a shower, wearing my neat western suit and leather shoes, and applying gel to my hair. You're too insincere. So there's no protection of the character after I go offline? Dragonborn asked again and ignored Takeaspirit's comments. Of course not. This is the world's first virtual reality online game using the gaming capsule. Even the pain is 100% simulated. The game would be lousy if you were given protection while offline. Take a Spearhead was extremely excited, and he looked like a cult member as he continued to shout, "Bro, you're in luck. You've gotten second beta gamer status without knowing anything. I offered sacrifices to all my anime wives before obtaining second beta gamer status." Then he muttered in a daze, "I didn't expect to be selected out of the 2 million gamers. Have I become someone that I hate?" Dragonborn frowned and wanted to say something, but someone from behind knocked into him and injured his mouth. He could feel the pain? A goblin had knocked into him. The goblin had the words, "Seal Head Ling Chong," above his head. He knocked into Dragonborn and immediately apologized, sorry, the gamers behind pushed me." Take a Spearhead, who was at the side, shouted at the top of his lungs, "Gosh. It's the first beta heavenly group." A goblin, Tarot Trader, smiled and said, "What heavenly?" "They're the veteran gamers from the first beta." Dragonborn tiptoed and looked above the sea of green goblin heads. Not far from him, tens of brightly colored and armored goblins wielded various weapons as they walked over. The new gamers cheered wildly. Chapter 110. Remember, this is Moros. Most of the 2,000 new gamers had already gathered at the plaza before the Dungeon Core main hall in the less than 10 minutes since Eternal Kingdom started running. A small portion of the new gamers left to do their missions. On the other side, 80 impressive goblins with superior equipment and an aura of killing intent walked over from the living quarters. Compared to the new gamers with their tattered clothing, the 80 goblins were armed to the teeth. They had shiny breastplates, spiked shoulder armor, spiral-patterned vambraces, and belts that bobbed up and down with their movements. Their skin was green and their pointed noses wrinkled. They had a large mouth with yellow teeth, but underneath the Roman helmets were determined faces. The goblins were walking at a slower pace. Clapping sounds, fresh flowers, and rainbow-colored borders seemed to appear at their sides. They shone like stars of the 8 o'clock idol dramas. The novice goblins gaped at what they saw. One of the female goblins, Seafood Shaved Ice, said to herself, "I'm so envious of their equipment that I'm salivating. They look so cool. I should have chosen the male gender." The veteran goblins had Elite First Beta Gamer next to their names. That was the title obtained from the First Beta Gamer Rewards Pack. Besides the title, the Rewards Pack consisted of 3,000 reputation points and 3 silver coins. The silver coins were directly deposited into their virtual bank accounts. The veteran gamers from the First Beta. They're the veterans from the First Beta. Ah, I'm dying. Is that Arthur? The one with black armor. The rich gamer with millions of renminbi. Idol, awesome. Gosh, he's too suave. Is the equipment from the Instance Dungeon? Are there any pieces of equipment from the ancient ruins? I didn't know goblins could be that cool. You look better than the photographs. How is a goblin suave? Why can't I see that? My husband, Sherlock, is the most handsome. Your husband and Brainiac have an album published on the discussion forum. The 2,000 gamers gave similar compliments at the same time. Dragonborn could only hear the gamers close to him, and the rest were only buzzing sounds. The goblins that walked over were the veterans of the First Beta, the gamers who had created sensational news on the discussion forum. The Second Beta gamers were green with envy when they noticed the noisy full-body armor, huge kite shields, and various weapons. Dragonborn was being pushed towards the First Beta gamers by the horde of Second Beta gamers. The First Beta gamers raised up both their hands instinctively in a protective stance, and the crowd stopped moving. The Second Beta gamers formed a semicircle around the First Beta gamers and gazed at them relentlessly. A gamer with Elite First Beta Gamer, not wearing pants, above his head walked to the trash hill at the plaza and stood at the top. He banged his short sword on his kite shield to produce deafening sounds, but the chattering voices of the Second Beta gamers didn't quieten down. Under the lead of a few First Beta gamers, the rest of the First Beta gamers banged their swords on their shields with the same rhythm. The noise of 100 gamers banging on their shields was much louder than Not Wearing Pants' voice and suppressed the chattering voices of the Second Beta gamers. Most of the gamers became silent. Stop talking. The veteran is going to speak. Keep quiet. Listen to what the veteran, Not Wearing Pants, is saying. Are you elementary kids? Can't you stop talking? Stop your racket. Keep quiet. Keep quiet. The Second Beta gamers helped to silence the other gamers who were still chatting. There were some minor conflicts, but they didn't create many problems as they were stopped by the nearby gamers. When the second beta gamers were almost quiet, Not Wearing Pants took out a simple megaphone made of dire wolfskin and shouted at the large crowd, "Everyone, listen up. We'll only spend a day to mentor you on the game mechanics. For those who would like to learn from us, raise your hands. We'll only mentor gamers who raise their hands, and it's totally free. If you would like to pay us, we'll not reject your gesture." More than 1,000 gamers raised their hands and shouted out, "Teach me, mentor me, I'm the most obedient, veteran Arthur, I want to be your disciple. Veterans, mentor me." Dragonborn immediately raised his hand. He was totally clueless about this game. Take a Spear Hit and Sealhead Ling Chong raised their hands too. The black-armored goblin with the word, "Arthur," above his head walked to Dragonborn and said to him and the nearby gamers, "All of you, follow me." Dragonborn was stunned, but he replied, "Okay." Moros stood at the training ground, and his face looked pale. Didn't Lord Sherlock say he would only recruit a few goblins for Eternal Kingdom? He looked at the nearby wandering goblins and the distant sea of goblins. Is that a few? Take a look. He is the novice skills trainer, Moros. Remember this location, it's called the training ground. There's no way to attack the dungeon NPCs, so don't think about it. They have no health bar, a fully armed goblin said to the tens of goblins behind him. That goblin pointed to the nearby empty space and said, "That's the place for setting up stalls. When you've defeated monsters in the instance dungeon, the loot can be sold here. The first beta gamers also like to form our teams here. Now that there are so many of us, I don't think this place is sufficient to accommodate all of us. I won't be explaining the contents of the novice skills training, as there are detailed strategy guides. Take a look during your free time. I'll take you to the train," the armed goblin said before he left with his group of goblins. What situation is this?" Moros was puzzled. Another armed goblin brought 20 goblins who were wearing tattered clothing over. He pointed at Moros and said, "He's the novice skills trainer, Moros. This place is the training ground. We usually form teams and do our transactions here. Remember that." There was another group of goblins queuing up behind them orderly. They gazed at Moros with anticipation. A goblin was maintaining order at the side, and he shouted, "Follow closely and don't drop out." After this introduction, those who would like to die, I'll bring you to Brainiac to experience death. Chapter 111. What am I doing? In the spacious main hall, candlelights that were lit up by mana were hung from the rough walls. Stretched shadows formed on walls that were constructed from rocks. Rowdy chattering voices mixed together to form intelligible noises like a group of flies buzzing around. Mana-simulated candle lights lit up a skeleton with a gray cloak. The shadowed skull was a classic textbook illustration. As the camera edged closer to the eye sockets, one could feel a strange emotion. Is the skeleton crying? A goblin, tarot trader, whose height was at the skeleton's thigh, asked a nearby goblin who was wearing armor and wielding a short sword. The goblin, peasant, looked at tarot trader and said, "Novice, your silly behavior has attracted my attention, but there's a long queue behind you. Do you want to die?" The goblins in the queue looked and shouted out loud, "Make haste, make haste. Make haste and die. Don't take your sweet time to die. I'm thinking of taking pictures with blacksmith Simba." "What pictures?" The veteran said the blacksmith shop wasn't one of the items in the introduction tour. "Don't you intend to improve your equipment in the future?" Tarot trader quickly said, "Die, die, die, quick, quick, quick. Adjust your pain threshold to 0, otherwise, don't blame me for the pain." After peasant finished speaking, he stabbed his sword at tarot trader. Tarot trader didn't struggle. He merely moaned for a few seconds before he fell to the ground dead. "Brainiac, please help to revive him," peasant said to the skeleton. Brainiac lifted his hand, and mana filled tarot trader's body. The fatal wound on his back was healed. Within a few seconds, tarot trader climbed up swiftly. He looked dazed at the pool of blood on the ground. Before he had a chance to speak, the goblins behind shouted some more. "Gosh, this revival mechanism is very cool. How did the game pass the censorship screening? I can't see from the back. What's the situation? Don't be impatient, it'll be your turn to die soon." The buzzing sound of the chatting gamers became louder in the room. Brainiac turned his head and looked at his grave. 2 goblins were using their hands to dig at his tomb. A goblin was using all his might to bite his locked chest. A few goblins were examining the rock walls as though they were searching for something. The goblins were wandering around inside the house. Together with a queue of goblins waiting to die, it presented a strange scene. "Brainiac, please help to revive him," peasant shouted once again. Brainiac lifted his hand while his listless eye sockets gazed at a faraway place. He took out his journal silently and wrote, 40. All behavioral and mental research and conclusions are invalidated. 41. What am I doing? Get lost, devils. Little Fairy screamed at the surrounding goblins and spat violently. Pooey. The saliva flew and landed on Sealhead Lingchong's head. Am I considered lucky? Take a spear hit stood at the side and glanced at Sealhead Lingchong. None of the goblins dared to get within 20 meters of Little Fairy. Little Fairy's mouth was like a water gun that could fire up to tens of meters away. Who knew how that petite body could shoot that far? But there was an exception. And that was the veteran gamer, Raintia. She was different from other first beta gamers. Some of them were famous for their combat prowess, some were notable for their detailed strategy guides, some were popular for their ingenious inventions, but Raintia was famous for her plant cultivation. A goblin who could depend on her own capability to cultivate plants and stand intact next to Little Fairy, who was one of the 10 dungeon mysteries. She was a qualified veteran, indeed. Raintia stood at the flower bed and looked at the surrounding gamers who were chatting about her, Little Fairy, and the precious plants in the dungeon. On the discussion forum, Raintia was thought to be the only goblin who could trigger the hidden fairy's plot. Little Fairy didn't despise Raintia. Otherwise, she would have been drowned by saliva at that proximity. It's a pity that I don't have a weapon to slash at Little Fairy, a goblin called Leather Bear said with regret. Even if you had a weapon, these NPCs can't be slashed since they don't have a health bar. Why do you think that Simba, the blacksmith, is still intact? If they had health bars, even Shirley could be slashed. A goblin with a short bow, Sylvanas, shouted firmly. Sister Vannas, a friend of the enemy. Sister Na. The new novices were familiar with the name Sylvanas since they were active on the discussion forum for the past 2 months. Sylvanas was a rich gamer and had the character setting, 00 Beauty Queen. Fragrant breath, so she attracted lots of fanboys. Many people accused her of being a man in disguise. One of them was not wearing pants. If she was truly rich and beautiful, who wouldn't want a rich Lola? A person could work for 100 years less. Sylvana's appearance relieved Little Fairy's pressure. Many gamers fawned over Sylvanas and asked to take pictures with her. The feeling was similar to doing a mission in an online game, abruptly noticing the rich guild leader of the most power guild, and realizing he was sitting dazed on the only ride in the game. While Sylvanas was interacting happily with the gamers, Raintia was at a loss. There were too many gamers. Arthur was tapping his shield nearby. The sounds of colliding metal made the chatty gamers quiet down. Arthur said to the crowd, Go to the kitchen. Chapter 112. The quality is too inferior. Dragonborn and the novice gamers followed Arthur and traveled through Eternal Kingdom's trash-filled plaza. In a small house with the sign, Carpenter Workshop, struck off, kitchen, a black iron dwarf was sweating profusely as he stirred a large cauldron that was boiling with underground water. There were no other materials in the cauldron. At the sides were piles of clay. After Mufasa stirred for a while, he used a ladle to scoop clay and placed it in the boiling water to kill the germs. Then, he placed the clay in an empty space on another side of the cauldron. He scooped a ladle of clay on the right, dipped it into the water, and placed the clay on the left. It was efficient, clean, hygienic, and tasty. There was a small sign on the ground on the left side. It had the words, Today's special, Fat Otaku's Happy Clay. Sale price. 1 gold coin, struck off, shock price, 50 bronze coin per set, written on it. Dragonborn looked dazed with the other novices. He didn't speak a word for a long time. Take a spear hit, asked the emotionless Arthur, great veteran. I used to see the gamers discussing the eating of clay on the forum. Is that true? How do you eat it? Sealhead Ling Chong asked awkwardly as he looked at the clay placed at the side. Arthur walked up to Mufasa and took out a card from his pocket. He said to the novice gamers, This is a bank card. Yes, it's what we normally use. It's made of adamantine ore. Don't ask me about adamantine ore, I'll let you know in the future. Arthur said, Once you've completed the first mission and obtained the game currency, you can obtain a card from Brew. Brew's the Crimson Dungeon core at the Dungeon Lord main hall. The bank card is rented, and there is a 5% tax on deposits. You can purchase a card using 1,000 reputation points and a silver coin, which is equivalent to 20 daily missions of carrying bricks. Arthur passed the bank card to Mufasa and said, "Give me a set of Fat Otaku's Happy Clay." Mufasa took Arthur's bank card. Then, he placed his card upon Arthur's card before he returned the bank card to Arthur and gave him a set of clay. Mufasa looked at the 200 to 300 surrounding goblins who were listening to Arthur and the groups of wandering goblins led by a few veterans. He became pale. Lord Sherlock only said a few goblins, so why were there that many goblins? It was terrifying. Like what his cousin had said, Lord Sherlock looked poor, but his background had more to it than it seemed. There were about 2,000 goblins. For the past 2 days, Sherlock only went out during the day and spent his nights in the dungeon core main hall. Lord Sherlock didn't do anything special, but he recruited 2,000 goblins. His capability had gone beyond terrifying. Mufasa's adoration of Sherlock had grown by leaps and bounds. Mufasa didn't understand why the new goblins wouldn't eat such tasty clay. He didn't dare to ask either. Socializing had never been his strong point. Arthur took the clay from Mufasa and ate it. After his demonstration, he said, "Eat it while it's hot. It tastes better." The new gamers clapped their hands. Using the dungeon core, Sherlock switched through the various surveillance images of the gamers to observe them. Most of the new gamers were maintaining order, but some bloodshed was unavoidable. Even if the goblins weren't gamers but native goblins, with 2,000 of them gathered together, conflicts were unavoidable. Sherlock had no intention to stop such conflicts. After accepting the allegiance of the new gamers, he returned to the Dungeon Lord main hall to observe them. The new gamers who arrived late were in a panic and started running around when they couldn't find Lord Sherlock. They were later given directions by the veteran gamers. Next to the spawning point is the Dungeon Lord main hall. If Lord Sherlock is not outside, then he'll be inside the Dungeon Lord main hall. If he's not in the Dungeon Lord main hall, he has left the dungeon via the teleport portal. The veteran gamers kindly said to the new gamers, "Actually, swearing allegiance is optional. It's just a formality." But some new gamers were adamant and wanted to kowtow to the devil. Sherlock was asked to come out by these obstinate gamers a few times. Soon, nobody called for him. Not all of the new gamers were that orderly and followed the veterans through the tour around Eternal Kingdom. Without restraints, the Otherworld's gamers would do terrible things. In the surveillance images, a novice gamer went to the living quarters of the veteran gamers to steal, but he was caught red-handed. The thief was bound, gagged, and displayed in the plaza as a warning. Sherlock witnessed the event but remained emotionless. A few novice gamers were embroiled in a conflict for an unknown reason. In the bloody fighting, 2 gamers were beaten to death. The veteran gamers arrived just in time to stop the conflict from spreading. Sherlock witnessed the event but remained emotionless. 100 gamers under the lead of a gamer called BT Kengren occupied an empty space at the living quarters. There were even a few veteran gamers with them. They said, "We're occupying the space. This will be our guild's base. Buy your land at other spots." Sherlock witnessed the event but remained emotionless. A novice stole a handful of clay while Mufasa was busy preparing meals. The other gamers even helped him distract Mufasa by asking lots of questions. The novice second beta gamer quickly stole a few sets of clay and left without being caught. The thief and other novice gamers enjoyed their loot merrily. From the surveillance images, one could feel a sense of camaraderie, friendship, cordiality, cooperation, and positivity. Sherlock slammed the table angrily when he saw the crime. Is there any quality in the Otherworld's gamers? How dare they steal from Eternal Kingdom? With such poor quality and conduct, I'll not let them off. Lord Sherlock, the crime is unpardonable. I'm already prepared and downloaded the relevant law articles onto your computer. I've also completed a comprehensive punishment system. Lord Sherlock, I feel that it's time to update the contents of the second beta test. Brew said, Chapter 113. The game concept of PvP, player versus player. With the large number of second beta gamers, there was unavoidable chaos which was within tolerable limits. The main point was that the first beta gamers were self-sacrificing in contributing to the development of the dungeon. The first beta gamers were highly respected on the discussion forum as they contributed strategy guides, maps, and game information. They were like heroes to the second beta gamers. The second beta gamers were meticulously selected by Brew. They were shipped the gaming capsules and given beta tester status within a short period of time. After which, the second beta test took place. As such, there was a subjugation of the new gamers to the veteran gamers on the first day. However, the situation may not last long, Brew said to Sherlock. As the adoration for the heroes diminishes, and with the highly ambitious and rich second beta gamers forming their clans and creating guilds, conflicts with the first beta gamers are unavoidable. There will even be conflict among the 2,000 new gamers. If we don't mediate appropriately and let nature take its course, nobody will carry bricks. The first thing that they will do when they get online is kill one another. There may even be other obnoxious behaviors that are not conducive for an entertaining gaming experience. Some gamers will purposely sabotage the experience of other gamers, and they won't be a minority. I feel that it's necessary to stop them from attacking each other and viewing each other as enemies in order to ensure the continued development of the dungeon. Killing each other is their favorite method of gameplay in the Underworld. No matter how meticulous we are, we can't avoid that, Brew said earnestly to Sherlock. For Lord Sherlock, the most important thing is to create a discipline mechanism to prevent the gamers from stealing Lord Sherlock's property and to encourage them to carry bricks diligently. Sherlock was reading a promotional leaflet, and he waited for Brew to finish speaking before he lifted his head and said, "What you've said is logical, but what you've considered is a bit biased, Brew." Lord Sherlock, what do you mean? Brew was taken aback. Conflict causes chaos, but it also causes wealth, Sherlock said. If the gamers carry bricks daily, they'll get sick even if there are new areas for them to explore. Currently, we only have a few areas for their entertainment. There's only one instance dungeon, and Spectre College can only accommodate 65 teams. It's not possible for them to raid the ancient ruins for a lifetime either. If they feel restless and quit the game, then I won't have free labor. Then there's no meaning in me recruiting 2,000 gamers. If they concentrate on killing each other, there'll be no one to carry bricks, and they'll eat up my precious resources. So, I've thought of a plan that doesn't cost money. They'll carry bricks diligently too. They may even help me earn money. It's a new type of gameplay. Brew replied, a new type of gameplay? Aren't we making use of the short amount of time to create a discipline system? Lord Sherlock, you have to have a sense of urgency. If we use violence to punish them and tell them what they should and shouldn't do, they'll lose interest in the game. Sherlock raised the promotional leaflet in his hand. Northern Underground World Gladiator Tournament invites you to participate. Thinking of marrying a rich, beautiful lady? Thinking of reaching the pinnacle of your life? Thinking of becoming the respected Lord Overseer of millions of creatures? Register with us immediately. Don't you think that PvP is a good solution? Sherlock placed the promotional leaflet on the table and tapped the tabletop before saying, previously, I had always thought of sending the gamers to the arena and letting them fight with strong opponents. Then, they would use their weak physiques to overcome the odds and earn large amounts of prize money. After observing their evil and disorderly behavior and predicting future large-scale bloodshed, I discover that my previous thinking was flawed. The more I think about this issue, the more I discover that the gamers have a limit, so Lord Sherlock doesn't treat them as creatures? Brew was shocked. What are you talking about? Why did you ask me such a strange question? Sherlock was puzzled and said, so I intend to let them become gladiators and participate in the gladiator tournament. Lord Sherlock, you are saying? If both sides of the gladiators are my servants, no matter who wins or loses, I'll make money. They won't need to go through long periods of training. They only need to register for the tournament and then participate in the next round of gladiator tournament. I'll just count the magic stones. Sherlock stood up and said, it will be 100 goblins battle or 1,000 goblins battle. That's a good promotional gimmick. There will be more spectators, and I'll earn even more. In this way, they can vent their aggressiveness and increase their fun at the same time. There are no monsters or bosses to fight, and there is limited space in the instance dungeon. Isn't it more fun for them to hack each other? They will need reputation points and coins to exchange for the tournament's application form. If there are two guilds or organizations that have a conflict, they can apply with me for a battle at the gladiator arena. I'll disguise them as gladiators and send them to the arena to kill each other. To have the chance for a savage battle, they'll carry bricks diligently to earn reputation points and coins. Sherlock inhaled deeply and exhaled in comfort. A perfect plan. What do you think of 10 magic stones for each goblin who will be sold to the gladiator arena? Though there haven't been any goblin gladiators before, the rarity will be an eye-catcher. Is 10 magic stones too expensive? No, it's not about the price. Brew hesitated and said ruefully, Lord Sherlock, you're a genius game producer. I was thinking of how to restrain the daily behavior of the gamers, but you've thought of using them to make money. As your assistant, I'm feeling ashamed for not considering things from your viewpoint. A plan that is unable to reap benefits from the gamers is a failed plan. I have one last question, Lord Sherlock. Brew said excitedly, when do we start the PvP functionality? Chapter 114, A Second Life. A green goblin with polished armor was laying down on a clean stone slab. He closed his eyes in serenity. The word, peasant, was above his head. A few goblins walked quickly past him. Yesterday was tiring. It was tiresome to mentor the novices. Those silly dudes didn't dare to touch the train after seeing the beetlemen stomp goblins to death. Ha ha ha, we don't need to mentor the novices today. Let's go to the ancestral ruins to carry bricks. Shall we exchange our mission loot for rewards? There are many foreign second beta gamers. If they go in and take our loot away, we'll lose big time. You're right. Let's ask Arthur and Not Wearing Pants and see what they say. I just got online. Let me do my daily mission of carrying bricks. Go ahead, but make haste. The sound of a chatting group faded into the distance. Peasant, who was on the ground, opened his eyes abruptly. Then, he sat up noisily as his armor scraped together. The kite shield at his side was pushed away. Peasant looked at his surroundings. A few goblins were searching the row of huge chests placed along a wall. They had the title, Elite First Beta Gamer, in their names. There were yelling and the noisy grinding of the rocks outside. The room was 200 square meters of empty space. It was surrounded by a half-built wall, and there was no ceiling. A water jar was placed at a corner. Peasant stood up and walked towards the water jar. The water in the jar was dark and dirty. Peasant didn't mind. He scooped some water out to wash his face. Then, he went out with his dirty face. The spot without any wall was most likely the door. Veteran. Peasant was stopped by the call as he walked out. He saw 3 rather clean goblins with the names, Dragonborn, Take a Spear Hit, and Seal Head Ling Chong. The goblin who called out was Take a Spear Hit. Peasant braced his chest and asked confidently, What's up? Veteran. Bring us to visit the home of the pioneer. Take a Spear Hit requested. Home of the pioneer? Peasant was taken aback. Sealhead Ling Chong pointed at the signpost at the construction site and said, This is the one. It's written on the signpost. The signboard had the words, Home of the Pioneer, on it. Gosh! Who installed this signpost? Hemp rope technology? Peasant cursed and looked at the second beta gamers. They were full of anticipation. Follow me. The 3 gamers followed Peasant and entered the only building that belonged to the gamers in the entirety of Eternal Kingdom. This is the level 1 main hall. That is the water jar for washing. The underground water well is at the flower bed. If you stay away from Little Fairy, you won't be spat at. That is the storage chest for everyone's use. Once we complete the 3 higher levels and 2 basement levels, we'll allocate single rooms, and each gamer will have a personal storage box. Those beds are stacked to save space. Once there's sufficient space, we'll use the beds. The stacked furniture was found by us. As space is limited, we're not using them now. Peasant completed his introduction. Dragonborn said, That's awesome. Peasant was feeling very proud. It's all right. We're now busy with the instance dungeon and have no time for our homes, otherwise, they would look more presentable. Do you know Spectre College? That's the instance dungeon with an ultra-high difficulty. Can we join? I've seen the veteran gamers challenging the instance dungeon on the forum. It's awesome. Are the skeletons getting more and more powerful? The 3 of them surrounded Peasant and shouted, Veteran. Peasant was full of himself as he looked at the 3 gamers and said, You haven't fought the underground spiders, have you? I intend to raid the ancestral ruins for treasure today. Forget it, I'll bring you to see the underground spiders. Peasant led the 3 gamers proudly to the train. Hundreds of gamers gathered at the plaza of the training ground. The chattering voices were loud, and nobody could hear clearly within 3 meters. There was no chatting system in Eternal Kingdom. The activities such as socializing, transactions, and forming teams depended on shouting. The novice skills training ground is full, pleading the veterans to teach the novices how to fight, paying 50 yuan per hour. Willing to pay first. First beta gamer mentoring novices in beginners combat training. 200 bronze coins or 200 yuan per person. The session lasts until noon. Limited to 10 novices only. Forming teams. Hunting spiders. For first beta gamers only. Not for second beta gamers. Selling beginners standard equipment. There is equipment with and without improvement. Can pay with renminbi or game currency. Rich novice gamers, look for me. Selling bone backpacks. 1000 renminbi for one. First come, first serve. Selling creature parts. Selling creature parts. Wah, what? It's you again. The gamers were shouting while doing transactions or forming teams. Dragonborn and his companions followed behind Peasant. In front of Dragonborn were the fully armed Peasant, Burning Chesthair, and Sylvanas. The training ground plaza was filled with goblins who were wearing underpants. There were about 30 to 40 goblins with armor. A male goblin, Soft Candy Girl, who was wearing underpants and wielding a rock in his hand, shouted in his firm male voice, "If the veterans don't mentor us, we novices will form our own team. Those who are not fearful of death, bring your rocks." Behind him stood an excited leather bear and fat Hades tiger, who were both wielding rocks. They were obviously a team. Surrounding them were a few second beta gamers who were watching them intensely. Dragonborn and his companions followed Peasant's group and walked over. Burning Chesthair said softly, "Gosh, they don't have any equipment. Are they on a suicide mission? Fighting the spiders with rocks? If they bring along the equipment, won't it be lost as well?" Peasant smiled and said, "I can't stand it, ha ha ha. I remember the mass suicide that we had 2 months back." The 3 veterans chatted merrily while the 3 novices whispered to each other. "That's pretty strong. Isn't that the short bow from the merchant band? Only 10 in the game." Take a spear hit said with envy, "They're the leader's helmet and Kramer's dagger. Both of them are purple legendary equipment. They are very rich." Sealhead Ling Chong said, "The wealthiest is veteran Arthur. He obtained 3 purple pieces of equipment by paying 1 million yuan. That's super cool." Dragonborn listened to both his companions and nodded as he followed their shoutings of, "Veterans, veterans." The word he uttered most in the morning was, "Veterans." The 6 of them walked through the training ground plaza and arrived at the main entrance of Eternal Kingdom. This was the only tunnel out of Eternal Kingdom. There were fewer gamers at the main entrance since most of the second beta gamers were either carrying bricks or, if they were rich, buying equipment with purchased game currency and learning combat skills at the training ground. Or they would be at the training ground plaza negotiating a good bargain for the equipment. For a good price, the first beta gamers were willing to sell their stockpiled equipment. The main entrance was the way to the spider's lair, which looked dark and terrifying. Eternal Kingdom looked better since Brew provided lighting at many places. Of course, it couldn't be compared to the simulated sunlight of Winterfell. But when compared to the Underworld tunnels, Eternal Kingdom was much brighter. Dragonborn gazed at the huge and dark tunnel. Take a Spearhead shivered and looked at Peasant as he said, "Gosh, you veterans are awesome. During the first beta test, when there was no train, did you walk along the tunnel? That's very brave." Peasant puffed up his chest and said proudly, "It's all right. We're just a tad bit braver." Burning Chesthair smiled and said, "This is child's play. You haven't been to Spectre College and the Spider's Lair. You'll find the tunnels too mild. Let's stop chatting. The train's here," Sylvanas said, and Dragonborn gazed into the dark tunnel. A huge beetleman was charging towards them. There were many green creatures sitting on the top shell of the beetleman. Occasionally, a few goblins would fall off and vanish in the gray mist kicked up by the running beetleman. Within a few seconds, the rumbling sound of the beetleman running towards them was heard. Though it was the second time he saw the beetleman, Dragonborn's hand started trembling with excitement. The tall and suave Devil Lord, the NPC skeleton who could revive goblins, the Black Iron Dwarves who served as blacksmith and chef, the gnome skills trainer, Little Fairy who despised them, the large and strange beetleman, the mystical dungeon, and the gigantic unknown Underworld. Only now could Dragonborn fully understand what the first beta gamers were saying on the discussion forum. "This is a game, But this is not a game. Welcome to Eternal Kingdom. Your second life starts now. Chapter 115. Version 0.16 Update Log. The veteran gamers were leading the novice gamers while they charged around in the Eternal Kingdom dungeon. The spider's lair didn't escape the fate of being one of the famous tourist attractions. This is the location where we battled the leader of the Houndhead men. He was called Kramer. Awesome, awesome, cool, cool. Where are the underground spiders? The invisible Sherlock stood by the entrance of the spider's lair as he watched the novice gamers who were wearing underpants and climbing down the beetlemen one by one. Sherlock chose to ignore the sticky stuff underneath the legs of the beetlemen. Two veteran gamers with armor stood at the spider's lair entrance and shouted at the novice gamers, "It's free to watch at the entrance, 50 bronze coins to enter the spider's lair. I'll guarantee a full intact corpse if you die. You won't lose any reputation points. Why didn't I think of such money-making schemes?" Sherlock pinched his chin and pondered. "Brew. Can you arrange for them to pay 100 bronze coins per day for staying in Eternal Kingdom?" "Lord Sherlock, you can't do that. There will be dire consequences on the official website," Brew said. The ecosystem of the spider's lair was badly damaged by the gamers. "There aren't any spiders at the entrance. When I last visited the entrance, there were a few spiders," Sherlock said. He had walked around inside. Besides the Spider Queen's territory deep inside the spider's lair, there were few spiders left, and the Houndhead men were extinct after their lair was destroyed. The novice gamers will probably provide the spiders with some fresh meat, but that won't last long. "Isn't it time for Lord Sherlock to find other suitable areas?" Brew asked. "Of course. I'll wait for them to empty the ancient ruins before opening up that sector. However, if the spider's lair is cleared, it would be a pity. In the future, I'll purchase some spider queens to inhabit the area. Now, I'll set up the new areas. It's still necessary to make some preparations." Behind Sherlock, tens of novice gamers were following a few veterans as they advanced towards the spider's lair. "Let's go back. I'll publish the announcement for the new game content." A fully armed orc rode on a beetleman as it ran in the Underworld tunnel. A few magical lights were spinning randomly, and they gave off dazzling colors. The magical lights came from a huge Roman Colosseum-like building. Even from the location of the orc, one could faintly hear the rowdiness in the building ahead. There were cages bound on top of the beetleman. The cages emitted sounds of metal colliding as they swayed during the beetlemon's movements. Fully armed gnomes and orcs were sitting by the sides of the cages guarding. Inside the cages were various underworld creatures. Orcs, gnomes, goblins, cockroach men, lizard men, sludge monsters, and even 3 hamsters. "Bro, could you slow down the beetleman? I can't take the swaying. I'm vomiting." A sludge monster composed of soft mud leaned on the metal grills and slipped out. Then, he walked unsteadily to the guards and complained. "Do you think you're on holiday? You're serving your sentence. You vile prisoner. You can count your blessings that you're not being executed immediately. Have some gratitude to society. Scum." A fully armored orc yelled at the sludge monster, "Get lost." "You scum. That's too much," the 3 hamsters shouted simultaneously. Then, a hamster leaned on the metal bar and shouted, "He's only an innocent sludge monster." "That's right. Can you spare me a sip of mucus?" A gnome who was lacking front teeth banged on the metal bars in front of the 3 hamsters with a mace and shouted, "What's the holler about? You incorrigible arsonist, if you make another noise, I'll let you work the hamster wheel." The 3 hamsters became pale. The sludge monster looked gratefully at the 3 hamsters and slowly slid back with an aggrieved face. He left a trail of sticky stuff on the ground as he went into the cage and cried pitifully. Ooh, it was unintentional when I swallowed the giant." "What? Sit tight, we're arriving," the orc driver shouted as he controlled the beetleman. The beetleman ran rumbling through the main gate of the Colosseum. It contained the words, "The Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena welcomes you." Noises of the rowdy creatures became clearer. Shouts, roars, and the bellows of wild beasts. The 3 hamsters hugged each other, their eyes opened wide as they swallowed hard. The gnome who was lacking one of his front teeth edged closer to the 3 hamsters and gave a scary smile. "Welcome to the Gladiator Arena." An orc who was locked in a cage abruptly shouted, "No. Let me go, I'm innocent." The gnome banged the orc's cage with his mace and said viciously, "What are you yelling about? I'll send you to bar 404 as a male prostitute if you make another sound. I have bail money. Stop the beetleman. The gnome hailed the beetleman and took the magic stone card from the orc. Then he opened the cage and urged the orc to come out. You may leave. Sherlock sat in front of the computer and typed furiously on the keyboard. Then he checked the screen carefully. Dungeon. Eternal Kingdom, update log version 0.16. Dungeon. Eternal Kingdom, version 0.16 official update. Added a new area. The ancient ruins will be opened up after gamers have cleared the ruins of treasure. Added new beta functionality, punishment system. An online game requires law. Attacking others, stealing, and other actions that affect other gamers negatively are strictly prohibited within Eternal Kingdom. For details, please refer to the book, World Compendium of Criminal Law. Gamers who flout the rules in Eternal Kingdom will have their account immediately frozen for a minimum of a day. Do not steal merchandise from the shops in Eternal Kingdom, especially Lord Sherlock's property. If the rule is flouted, the beta test account will be terminated. Added new beta functionality, Guild. Lord Sherlock has generously allowed his servants to create their own organizations. Gamers can pay 100 silver coins to register their guild at the dungeon core. The guild must have at least 10 members to be created. The details regarding guilds will be uploaded soon. Added new beta functionality, Guild Location. Lord Sherlock feels that the dungeon is too noisy. He decided to lease out scarce land for the guild locations in order to alleviate overcrowding. The guild locations have 3 categories. Level 1 Guild Location. The space provided is 100 square meters. It requires a one-time payment of 20,000 reputation points and 200 silver coins. Monthly rental is 10 silver coins. Meant for 10 to 100 members. Level 2 Guild Location. The space provided is 200 square meters. It requires a one-time payment of 50,000 reputation points and 500 silver coins. Monthly rental is 25 silver coins. Meant for 101 to 200 members. Level 3 Guild Location. The space provided is 300 square meters. It requires a one-time payment of 80,000 reputation points and 800 silver coins. Monthly rental is 40 silver coins. Meant for more than 201 members. Currently, there are only level 3 guild locations. After applying for a guild location, a monthly rental has to be paid. Guild locations will be revoked if the rental is not paid. Guild locations can be upgraded or downgraded by a level. Guild location areas are not developed. Gamers have to excavate at designated locations. They have to clean, construct, and maintain the guild locations themselves. The same goes for relocating the guild. The building materials for the guild locations will not be free like in the case of the living quarters. Gamers have to pay for building materials. The rules for building at the guild locations are the same as the living quarters. Blueprints for building at the guild locations must be submitted. Gamers can decide on the building style and size within the perimeter of the guild location. Lord Sherlock will provide free services for taking pictures with him at the guild locations. The services for an opening ceremony and speech will be charged accordingly. The game producers do not accept complaints. Just do the requirements, and it is done. Advanced notice of new beta gameplay, Gladiator Arena. The Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena is the most famous arena in the North and is popular with the Underworld citizens. There is a slight problem with the legality though. Lord Sherlock decided to give the gamers a chance to prove themselves. He is currently negotiating with the tournament organizers. Once the negotiation is completed, the gameplay will be officially online. Added new bug, Beetleman train accident bug. When gamers take the train, they may fall off the Beetleman, causing death and maiming. If gamers encounter such a bug, do not panic as it is of no use. The above mentioned are the new updates. The game development team wishes the gamers an enjoyable experience. How's that? Will the announcement of version 0.16 be popular? Sherlock asked, looking pleased with his completed announcement. Indeed, it is so, Lord Sherlock, Brew said earnestly. Sherlock nodded. After checking it over, he published it. Chapter 116. The Calling of the Gladiator Arena. Sunny_light. Your chest's gone. Your sword's gone. Your account's gone. Fix Boxgo. Not amending bugs but adding more. The coder monkey has perished. Companion reading bookworm Q. Finally, the game has PvP? I can feel the coming bloodshed. Unoccupied Onuen. This is the game where gamers have to construct the buildings one brick at a time. Do they expect us to excavate for the land too? Crimson Feather. I am relieved to see both the first and second beta gamers being exploited. Stir-fried vegetable rice. Dragon Raja is recruiting members. Join our WeChat group after registration. There is a subsidy every month. Taking Juju pills. Don't say any more. I am the man who is going to be the legendary gladiator. Most of the comments were on the PvP and the guild system. There was minimal discussion on the newly opened areas. While Sherlock was browsing the replies, a group of gamers entered the Dungeon Lord main hall noisily. They were there to find Brew. They wanted to set up a guild. The leader was the veteran gamer not wearing pants. Behind him were more than 21st beta gamers. Setting up a guild required 100 silver coins. To a first beta gamer, it was difficult to come up with the money. However, with the collaboration of many gamers, it wasn't an issue. The procedure for creating a guild wasn't complicated. After accumulating 100 silver coins at Not Wearing Pants' side, they registered with 90 members. The name of the guild was. A pickaxe landed on the tough diamond seam and emitted a clanking sound. At the half-developed commerce area, a group of gamers in underpants were chatting and excavating using their pickaxes. My god, the first beta gamers are rich. They're paying us 200 bronze coins an hour to help them excavate the guild location. That's very cool. Don't you know that the veteran gamers are all rich? The tens of gamers chatted while they excavated. Behind them, a veteran gamer was leading 100 gamers as he shouted, "Good. That batch of gamers, come down. We're changing the batch. Wait, veteran, let me excavate for an hour. I can still work." The group of excavating gamers begged, but the veteran gamer said, "You've worked for an hour. Your strength and speed have diminished. If you want to work, go and rest. You may come back later." He urged them to come down and leave the pickaxes, which were rented by the veteran gamers. The batch of excavating gamers was switched. Sherlock sat in the dungeon core main hall and looked at the hundreds of novice gamers in the crystal ball. They were working in a few directions and helping the veteran gamers excavate their first guild location. Though there were many gamers developing the dungeon diligently, Sherlock felt strange seeing a few hundred gamers excavating the unimportant guild location. Why are these gamers always exploiting loopholes? Or, are they thinking of ways to oppose me? Is it that difficult to work honestly for me? Sherlock asked Brew. Lord Sherlock, the rich gamers are using the power of money to employ other gamers to solve their problems. This is a common occurrence as money is used to do such things, Brew said honestly. The dungeon core burst into flames, and 2 letters were thrown onto Sherlock's table. Sherlock picked up one letter, which was from the Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena. He picked up another letter from Spectre College. Sherlock opened up the letter sent by Professor Bacon. Respectable Lord Sherlock, my apologies for imposing on you. It has been 5 to 6 days since there were combatants coming from Eternal Kingdom. The college is worried that there may be some issues, so I am charged with asking. I hope that Lord Sherlock does not mind. If there are any problems, Lord Sherlock may discuss them with me. I will try my best to help, Bacon. Sherlock put down the letter and asked, the gamers haven't challenged the instance dungeon since the start of the second beta test. Nobody has challenged the instance dungeon, Lord Sherlock, Brew quickly replied. As the second beta testing has just started, they have been busy taking care of the new gamers and raiding the ancestral ruins. Most importantly, they have been doing missions carrying bricks. Lord Sherlock, please take a look. The details of a mission appeared before Sherlock. Mission title: The Way of the Gnome. Mission description: intelligent, cunning, agile, and strong. The Underworld gnomes possess these positive traits. Though not every trait is outstanding, the traits are pretty balanced. To become a gnome, it is not sufficient to just carry bricks. Attainment requirement: reputation level 5 and above. Mission objective: weapon level 3, 0/1. Daily completed mission count: 0/60ths. Successful instance dungeon conquest: 0/5ths. Paid silver coins: 0/10ths. Mission reward: attainment of the gnome race. Please look for Lord Sherlock at the Dungeon Lord main hall for the reward. After looking through the mission, Sherlock said, Seems like there's no problem. No, Lord Sherlock, there's a problem, Bruce said. In the veteran gamers group, besides one gamer, none of them has reputation level 5 or above. The dungeon core showed an image that depicted Raintia working diligently at the flower bed. She was smiling contentedly. It's this veteran gamer. She has attained level 6. For the past 2 months, Raintia didn't perish once and didn't recreate her character. Other gamers have recreated their character at least once. Currently, their reputation levels are at most level 4. If they challenge the instance dungeon now and are killed, they'll have to recreate their characters. Though their reputation points will not be reset to 0, points will be deducted. To achieve reputation level 5 and complete the Way of the Gnome, they're doing safer missions like raiding the ruins. Brew continued explaining, because of this mission, the magical items kept by the veteran gamers are exchanged for rewards. I informed them to place the items at a specific location for storage. I see. Then there's no good solution. Sherlock nodded. He took out a pen and some paper and wrote an address on it before taking out some powder and igniting it. He burnt the letter, which was sent to Bacon. Lord Sherlock, you've written a single address? Brew didn't understand Sherlock's intention. Just a gathering place for poor female students. This is not a problem. Bacon will sort it out. Sherlock didn't say much. He took another letter and opened it. Respectable boss Sherlock, I would like to represent all of the employees of the Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena to thank you for your support. We have received your letter. You are a big boss with thousands of goblins, and we value your support. But please understand that our profession is a special one. We are very interested in your proposal of goblins fighting with the giants. However, we require your goblins to go through a selection test. Please bring along 50 goblin gladiators to our arena for a selection test within 10 days. We will arrange a suitable category for your gladiators to fight in the arena. Looking forward to your arrival, Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena. It seems like the development of this matter is pretty smooth. I'll bring some gamers to participate in a fight. After the selection test, I'll be able to let the gamers participate in similar gladiator tournaments or performances, Bruce said. I thought they would accept my proposal. I could then make 2 groups of gamers fight and make money for me. I didn't expect them to do a selection test. Sherlock hugged his arms and thought for a while. Then he said, with only 50 gladiators, my power will appear diminished. As they are goblins, not many of them are qualified gladiators, Bruce said. Lord Sherlock, how do I select the 50 gamers? Select the gamers with the highest weapon levels. I'm confident they'll pass the selection test, Sherlock said. Package it as a hidden PvP preparatory mission. Arrange for the strongest 50 gamers to participate. Give them some reputation points and coins as rewards. We'll set out at 8 a.m. sharp tomorrow. Lord Sherlock, I feel that it's better to delay for a day, Bruce suggested. Why? Sherlock asked. Because the day after tomorrow is Sunday in the Underworld. They'll have more time. We'll do that, Sherlock nodded. A black armored goblin sat up in a room filled with goblins who were lying down. The word, Arthur, was above his head. As he woke, the calling of the gladiator arena, the start of the tournament, appeared in his mind. Chapter 117. The Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena welcomes you. Gosh, did you receive the mission? What mission? I received it. The calling of the gladiator arena, the start of the tournament. The mission reward has a title. Why did you get a mission, but I didn't? I guess it's assigned based on looks. Perhaps those with Knight Rider and godly looks will have priority? Arthur looked at the mission in his mind as the gamers at his side conversed. Mission title. The calling of the gladiator arena, the start of the tournament. Mission description. The Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena is the famous tournament center in the north, and it has always been a sacred place of gladiators. Many gladiators dream of having the chance to showcase their superb skills in the arena. Mission objective. Proceed to the Dungeon Lord main hall to look for Lord Sherlock and follow him to the Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena. There will be a selection test at the arena. There is no death penalty for this mission. Mission reward. Gamers who completed the mission will obtain the title, Gladiator. Mission start time. 1 hour and 30 minutes. At the first Beta Gamers living quarters, more and more veteran gamers received this special mission. The gamers who didn't receive the mission were feeling sour. The veteran gamers who received the mission gathered together to discuss it. The mission objective was vague and the contents general. What should they do if they lost? The reward was a title. Though Arthur was reticent, he listened to the gamers who voluntarily gathered around him to talk. Since the mission hadn't started, there could be clues to be collected. Though there weren't many NPCs, they could still try asking. After their discussion ended, they ran towards the kitchen. Mufasa, do you know about the Northern Gladiator Arena? What, you don't want clay? I just deducted the cost of the clay. Can you pass me your magic stone card? Let me give you a refund. Sorry, what did you say just now? Sausage? I don't have such food. No, we're asking you if you know about the Northern Gladiator Arena. What, you want clay now? Didn't you say that you didn't want it? Did I deduct your money? I just took your magic stone card. You aren't buying? Okay, I'll refund you the money. Sorry, what were you saying again? Nothing. Palm. A gamer called Not Doing Not Dying, who was in underpants, fell to the ground. He gradually disintegrated and vanished. The gamers saw a system announcement in their minds. The gamer, Not Doing Not Dying, flouted the dungeon rules by cheating Lord Sherlock of 10 bronze coins. His account was terminated. The gamers at the side became silent. The first beta gamers arrived at the blacksmith shop. They saw Simba being surrounded by the novice gamers, and the green veins on his temple were about to burst. They went to the training ground and saw Moros conducting training. Make haste. You are the worst trainees that I have ever taught. They didn't obtain any information after they made their rounds. As for Little Fairy, she didn't have any other communication methods aside from spitting saliva and cursing. The mission was about to start. Sherlock looked at the tens of gamers gathered at the entrance of the Dungeon Lord main hall. There were some first beta gamers and many second beta gamers spectating at the sides. The spectating gamers didn't receive the mission. They were just watching. They were discussing this PvP preparatory mission. They only chatted for a while before they couldn't speak. Sherlock walked out from the Dungeon Core main hall and exerted his dominant aura so that the gamers couldn't speak. Are you the chosen warriors? Sherlock looked at the gamers who were standing before him and said, very good, you look like worthy warriors. The Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena invited us to participate in their tournament, or rather, performance. This is a good chance to increase the reputation of Eternal Kingdom. You have to buck up. Sherlock finished speaking and walked towards the teleport portal. Follow me, warriors. The dominant aura of the devil vanished, and the gamers followed behind Sherlock. The gamers without the mission also followed. What if they managed to slip in? Come close to me, warriors. Sherlock stood at the teleport portal and ordered as the gamers edged closer. Dragonborn was being squeezed in the group. Take a spearhead, who was at the side, said excitedly, gosh, let's squeeze over to Shirley's side. What if we are teleported too? Take a spearhead was still a distance from Shirley. Dragonborn was even further away. Sherlock's mana engulfed the 50 gamers. After a flash of brilliance, Sherlock and the 50 gamers vanished. They had left Eternal Kingdom via the teleport portal. Take a spearhead was disappointed and sighed with dissatisfaction like the rest of the gamers. Then he said, I thought there would be a loophole. I didn't expect the teleport portal to be that precise. Then, creatures will not be able to. Dragonborn? Take a spearhead discovered something was amiss because Dragonborn was not at his side. Who are you? Where's Dragonborn? I'm Seal Head Ling Chong. He was teleported, you silly dude. Sherlock and the 50 goblins appeared at the Winterfell VIP teleport portal main hall. Of the 50 goblins, 49 of them had been there before, though it was only for a few seconds. But it was the first time for one of the goblins. A second beta gamer in underpants with the word, Dragonborn, above his head. Dragonborn looked awkwardly at the surrounding veteran gamers. He was the only goblin in underpants in the group of fully armed veterans. It was very embarrassing. Little bro, what's the situation? Do you have the mission, or did you slip in? Is the selection for the mission based on looks? Impossible, the rest are all first beta gamers. He's the only novice gamer. The group of gamers talked noisily. They felt there was a problem, but Sherlock didn't think that there was an issue. The NPCs didn't care about this. That was what everyone thought. Everyone believed that Dragonborn didn't receive the mission and that he slipped in accidentally due to a bug. The atmosphere became more relaxed. The group of gamers started talking in front of Dragonborn. But Dragonborn quickly explained, "No, I received the mission." The veteran gamers were stunned, but they quickly accepted the fact since there was no rule that excluded the novice gamers. Sherlock didn't say anything. He led the gamers out of the VIP teleport portal main hall and walked to the Winterfell Beetleman rental center. There were a few gamers who would wander around exploring, but if they left Sherlock's side by more than 10 meters, a notice would appear in their heads. "You are deviating from the mission location. The mission is going to fail." 5, 4, 3. The other gamers immediately grabbed the lost sheep and followed closely behind Sherlock. Brew had a reason for selecting Dragonborn. This gamer received professional wrestling training and is a wrestling lover. His weapon level is exactly at the 50th position. Moreover, his name is pretty good, and he is suitable as a model gladiator. A huge beetleman darted rapidly in the tunnel and emitted pa-ta sounds. Occasionally, other beetlemans overtook it and vice versa. A group of 50 goblins sat on the seats that were on top of the beetleman. They were fastened with safety belts. In front of the seats was the emotionless Sherlock. The 50 goblins were chatting by his ears. "What, you're a mathematician? IT is a promising career. Graduation is a failure. According to my seniors in the same career path, there aren't many doing this after graduation. It's the same for my career path too. What's your career? Finance. The career prospects are dim. Are you graduates? Am I the only weak gal with nothing? I don't believe your crap. I almost believed you. Vanna's bro, stop talking. Nobody believes you. Arthur bro, look at them. They're bullying me." The group of gamers chatted while Dragonborn sat at the side obediently. Nobody knew him, and nobody chatted with him. The veteran gamers didn't know him and didn't speak to him. Arthur and Sherlock didn't speak a word either. Arthur had been reticent. As for Sherlock, he was tired, emotionally tired. Look at Arthur, he hasn't said a word. If only every gamer was like him, that would be wonderful. Sherlock couldn't help thinking about it. The good thing was that they had arrived at their destination. The beetleman ran towards a Roman Colosseum-like building with a huge sign that said, "The Northern Underground World Gladiator Arena welcomes you." Chapter 118. Cruelty of Gladiator Fights. Like I said before, goblin gladiators have never been explored. I know that your gladiator arena is famous in the Northern Underworld and bravery is your innovative theme, so I believe that you're willing to accept fresh ideas. In a smoke-filled room, a dark, beautifully crafted table was placed in the center. A devil sat on a dark sofa with his back to the door. He supported his head with a hand and appeared relaxed. "Lord Sherlock, you're an evil devil." A poisoned toadman, who was wearing a checkered western suit, a coffee-colored waistcoat, and a tie and had 3 layers of fatty chin, was slumped in a huge executive chair as he faced the devil. Actually, he was sitting in the chair. Because he had lots of flesh, he looked like he was slumping. The poisoned toadman inhaled from a white, heated metal stick and puffed out a mushroom cloud. Then he took out white metal sticks from the round table and said to the young devil in front of him, "Don't you want to have a smoke? The taste is pretty good." "No, thank you." Sherlock waved his hand and said, "The bloody chrysanthemum tea is sufficient." "What do you think of my proposal?" "Like I've said, I'm interested in your idea. For gladiators, it's not sufficient to be creative. The audience has to like it. Actual capability is an important factor. Otherwise, I could pull it off with some weak-looking goblins." The poisoned toadman took another smoke. Due to his movement during his speech, his tight jacket buttons looked as though they were about to pop off. "I understand what you're saying. I brought along 50 goblin gladiators for them to prove themselves." Sherlock spread out his hands and said with ease. "Reserve fighters." The poisoned toadman straightened his back, and his flesh quivered. He extended his hand, which had 4 sticky fingers, and said emphatically, "Your goblin warriors cannot be called gladiators because they're not fully registered. If they have the courage to challenge a giant like what Lord Sherlock has said, I won't hesitate to recruit them as gladiators." The poisoned toadman took another puff and made sucking sounds. Then he exhaled a mushroom cloud before saying, "There will be a small-scale performance. As it's not a popular time slot and the itinerary isn't new, the spectators are few. I hope that your goblins are as outstanding as you've claimed." The poisoned toadman smiled. Black insects crawled on the damp bricks of a wall. The chains dragging along the ground made shrill scraping sounds. On a door was a sign that had the words, Resting Room 09. The sounds of heavy panting pervaded the room. With the reflection of light from the lamps, the oily green skin accentuated the thick, strong muscles underneath. An arm that was as thick as a goblin. A tall orc whose hands were holding metal chains sat on a horizontal bench. He looked fiercely at the few goblins in front of him. The strange green words above their heads were incomprehensible. You've been a gladiator for 10 years? Oh my god, that's awesome. Our skills trainer was a gladiator too. Do you know the gnome, Moros? One of the goblins asked. Moros? I knew a lot of Moros. There is a Moros Undertaker in the Money in the Bank briefcase tournament, a Moros Fire player in the Hades Inferno tournament, and a Moros Final Rider in Buried Alive. I haven't heard of a Moros in Gnome. What is Gnome? Is it a tournament? The orc rubbed his knees and laughed as he replied. No, it's a race, the gnome. He said he was a legendary gladiator, another goblin quickly said. Legendary gladiator? The real legendary gladiator is me. The orc stood up excitedly, his flesh quivering as though it was alive. Then it became firm like stone slabs. Big Rock Johnson. The orc stood in front of the light, and his shadow engulfed the goblins. He had an imposing aura, and the goblins looked small in comparison. Johnson. In the next script, you have to. A shout was heard outside. An elderly gnome wearing a white cloak, sporting an unkempt beard, and holding a script was taken aback when he saw the goblins in the room. He asked, "Who are these goblins? Did you let them in? Why aren't they cleaning and watching over the stage? What are they doing here?" "No, they say they're participating in the gladiator fight." The orc, Johnson, pointed at the green goblins and replied. Gladiators? The elderly gnome widened his eyes as he gazed at the goblins who were fully armored and wielding weapons and shields. If their goblin race was disregarded, they looked like gladiators. What did Boss smoke this time? Goblins? Is our business that bad? The gnome waved his hand and said to Big Rock Johnson, "Forget it, don't worry about this. You have to be knocked down to the ground at the 10th minute. Your opponent will use his elbow to hit your thigh and then carry you for a back slam. Then you'll be KO'd. Do you understand? Wait, is my opponent a gnome? He's only as tall as my belly, how could he do a back slam?" Big Rock Johnson asked, "Are you an idiot? When he lifts you up for a slam, you'll raise yourself up. Will that suffice? After being a gladiator for 10 years, do I have to teach you?" Johnson rubbed his bald head awkwardly. "You can lift your scalp," peasant, who was sitting opposite him, said. "Whatever it is, prepare for your appearance. Is the soap applied on your body? When the light is directed at you, you have to appear shiny," the elderly gnome said to Johnson. "It's applied." Johnson took out some soap and showcased his shiny skin. "Okay, let's go." The elderly gnome took Johnson out. There were only 5 goblins left in the room. Arthur, not wearing pants, Sylvanas, burning chest hair, and peasant. "What do we do?" Not wearing pants asked in the silent room. What shall we do?" Peasant looked confused. "For the next gladiator fight, do we go out? What shall we do?" Not wearing pants replied, "Shall we discuss our tactics? Though the mission description didn't mention mass fighting, won't the group that wins receive greater rewards? I feel we should execute a precision range strike." Sylvanas took out her short bow and caressed it lovingly. "A precision strike on our teammates?" Burning Chest Hair said. Sylvanas jumped up and strangled Burning Chest Hair's throat with the ends of her bow. She pulled her bow and said viciously, "If you belittle me again, I'll give you a precision death." "I'm dying. Gosh, I'm dying. Release him. The fight hasn't begun, and we'll be down by a gamer." Not wearing pants and peasant hurried to save their teammate. Only Arthur was silent as he sharpened his short sword with a whetstone. Noises were heard outside as the 4 goblins were scuffling. "Ladies, gentlemen, welcome to today's Northern Underground World Professional Wrestling Tournament. I'm the host. Let me welcome Big Rock Johnson." "What? He's using a prohibited weapon the moment he appeared." "No, guards. Guards, oh my god. The situation is out of control. My god, this is the most bloody professional wrestling competition that I've ever seen. This competition shouldn't be called outlawed. This is totally inhumane." "What? My words are censored?" The 4 goblins continued scuffling. "My god." Johnson's equipment was taken away, brutally stolen. "Take a look." The equipment was swallowed by Metal Devourer. Seems like Metal Devourer is winning. I look forward to the mass fight between Metal Devourer and 50 goblins. Can Metal Devourer swallow the goblins and their equipment? The 4 scuffling goblins stopped and sat in their seats. Not Wearing Pants looked at Sylvanas and asked, "We'll stand behind you. Can you execute your precision strike? Make haste, you fat lazy hamster prisoner." Paw, paw, paw. A gnome with a missing tooth cracked his whip in front of 3 spinning hamster wheels. 3 hamsters sporting O-faces ran on the hamster wheels continuously in front of the gnome. An orc peered in and said, "The special blood effects above are done. We don't need the hamster wheels anymore. Let the hamsters do some cleaning up." The gnome nodded and yelled, "Sinful ones, you can stop now. Go and clean the resting rooms." Chapter 119. 3 hamsters. Walla, walla. A tiny crawling insect was sprawled on the wall of a corridor. As the sound of chains dragging was heard, the insect's feelers quivered twice, and 3 furry hamsters carried their handchains and walked to a room door. Resting room 09. The words were written on the door. "I want to go home. My fruit." The eyes of the middle hamster were full of aggrieved tears. "Aren't they going to give us our meals?" The hamster at the back was full of grievances. "Don't give up. We can escape this prison," the hamster at the forefront said firmly. They heard voices coming from within the resting room. "You can climb on his head and use the weapon to stab his eyes." "What if our equipment is swallowed?" "No problem. I'll distract him. If I die, use the opportunity to kill him. I'll stab his heart." Kulu. The foremost hamster swallowed hard. The hamsters behind were trembling in fright. The foremost hamster raised his paw and knocked on the door. "Is it our turn? Open the door. I wonder when the mission ends." Voices were heard from within, and someone came to open the door. 2 goblins stood at the doorway, and 3 goblins sat on the horizontal benches meant for the competitors. As the goblins were short, their feet were unable to touch the ground when they sat on the benches. The scene should have comical. However, seeing the goblins wearing shiny armor, wielding sharp swords, and looking at them with razor-sharp gazes, and after hearing the discussion just now, it was a different story. The 3 hamsters trembled once again. "Z, Z, Z," the 3 hamsters said to the goblins consecutively. The goblins were taken aback by the words of the 3 hamsters. Not Wearing Pants was the first to recover as he had a sharper acuity. "This is a mission. I said that holding us in this room for tens of minutes with all the drawers locked wasn't normal." Burning Chest Hair said confidently. "What do you mean?" Peasant looked puzzled. "You're dumb." Sylvanas pointed at the 3 hamsters and said, "Take a look at the 3 hamsters. They're not taking small roles. They're the crux to the plot." "And what about this?" Sylvanas raised the paws of a hamster and pointed to the metal handcuffs as she said, "They say, Winterfell death row inmates. In games, death row inmates usually have missions. They're mostly NPCs with missions." Palm. As the paws of the hamster were too small, the handcuffs that were placed on them fell to the ground when Sylvanas lifted the paws. The hamster immediately picked up the cuffs and placed them on his paws. He shook his head and emitted panicked noises. "Z. This kind of sound." Arthur nodded and said, "I agree. How do we communicate with them?" The 3 hamsters looked at the 5 goblins talking. Though they understood their words, they couldn't understand what they meant. "Do you have missions for us?" Not Wearing Pants stood out and said to the hamsters, but they only emitted anxious sounds. "Z. This kind of sound. That isn't right." Sylvanas stood up and said, "You asked for missions the moment you met an NPC? And you're a professional game broadcaster? You have to pay attention to the sense of immersion. Didn't games let you kowtow and do odd jobs? Isn't that a sense of immersion? Let me try." Sylvanas pushed Not Wearing Pants away and looked at the wide-eyed hamsters as she said, "We're warriors from Eternal Kingdom. We're the heroes who rescued the Underworld from Kramer and vanguards who resisted the Void Legion. How can we help you?" Z. The 3 hamsters only made the same sounds. "Forget it, they're just ordinary hamsters." Burning Chest Hair didn't harbor any hope. "Why isn't Shirley here yet? We've waited so long. Do we have to wait for a day?" "I'm going out at night for a movie date," Peasant complained. "Are the daily missions too easy or is Lord Sherlock too generous to allow you the free time to fall in love?" Burning Chest Hair had just finished teasing when the 3 hamsters immediately spoke. "Lord Sherlock? Is that superior devil Sherlock? Z? The hamster sitting at the front raised his paw and knocked on the head of the last hamster as he shouted, "Why are you chirping? Can't you see the situation clearly? If we find Lord Sherlock, we'll be saved. And we get to eat." The hammered hamster quickly asked, "Where's the food?" The eyes of all the goblins, including Arthur's, lit up. "So you were sent here to find Lord Sherlock, and you can't divulge the identity of the creature who sent you." The three hamsters sat their fat buttocks on the benches. In front of them were 5 fully armed goblins who were surrounding them. Not wearing pants was posing a question to them. "Yes, that's correct. We can't tell you. If we tell, we won't get any more food. Perhaps, you can tell us your names?" Sylvanas asked. "Big Boss, Second Boss, Fat Otaku." The 3 hamsters replied with their names readily. "We'll help you," Burning Chest Hair said frankly. The 3 hamsters were surprised. They looked at the 5 goblins as though they were their benefactors. "Thank you." As they gazed at each other, Peasant said, "We'll help you to escape and look for Lord Sherlock." The 3 hamsters were moved to tears. "Thank you." They were quiet for a few seconds. "We've accepted this mission." Accepted this mission. Sylvanas repeated the words twice. The 3 hamsters looked at each other and bowed deeply to the 5 goblins. "Thank you." Peasant wanted to say something but was stopped by not wearing pants. He grabbed the other gamers and led them to a corner for a discussion. "What's up, Pants? Aren't you experienced? Think about it. Why isn't there a mission notice and mission rewards? Vanna's bro, you wanted me to stay away, and now you're asking me?" "Don't ask. I don't know. Stop bickering. According to the peasants' gaming experience, this must be a strange encounter system." "Strange encounter? What's that? Tell us more." "Chest hair bro, didn't you play something with a strange encounter system before? It's in the online games where you obtain an item without any mission notification. During the discovery of the mission, the rewards are either bountiful or there's nothing at all. You're saying that this is a strange encounter?" "Yes, Arthur bro, this is most likely a strange encounter." "I think Peasant is right." "I agree. Let's help them first. I hope it's not a mission by the producers to taunt us." While the gamers were talking, the 3 hamsters were also chatting amongst themselves. "They're very curious. Why are they repeating themselves? They look insane. Do we believe them? They look insane. Do we believe them?" The 2 hamsters slapped Fat Otaku. They heard the voices of the gamers coming from behind. "Big Boss, Second Boss, Fat Otaku, don't worry. We'll help you. We accept this mission." Not wearing pants stood akimbo and stuck out his thumb. With his armor and the sword at his waist, he looked like the protagonist of a popular comic. "Gosh, that looks cool. I've always wanted to have such feelings." Not wearing pants turned his head and said to his companions. "That Big Boss Hamster asked courteously, how do you intend to help us escape?" The 5 goblins looked at each other. Then, they gazed at the 3 hamsters. "Squeeze a bit? Should be able to squeeze in?" Arthur said as he went into deep thought. "The goblins are ready." A gnome carrying a script walked to resting room 09 and shouted at the metal-canned goblins, "You're up next. Perk up and perform your best. Fight your best." The spectators were listless the entire day, so shout with more passion. "Do you understand?" The goblins stood up quickly. 3 of the goblins were walking awkwardly and looked uncomfortable. As the 5 goblins followed the gnome out of the resting room, there were 3 goblins in the resting room that had the following words above their heads: Peasant, Sylvanas, and Burning Chest Hair. "Why did I use rock in rock paper scissors?" Sylvanas shouted in frustration. "Forget it, Vanna's bro. Aren't we cheating in broad daylight?" Arthur and Not Wearing Pants said they'll share the rewards with us. Burning Chest Hair knelt down in anguish as he hugged his head and sighed. I wanted to fight in the arena so much." Chapter 120. The tournament starts. In the dark and damp room, only 2 horizontal benches were placed at the walls. The walls, which were made of bricks, were crawling with strange vines and a layer of green lichen. A rusted metal door was at the room entrance, and outside the room was a tunnel that shimmered with some lights. There was faint shouting and clapping coming from outside the tunnel. "It's the 5 of you. Are all of you present?" The gnome holding a script looked at the goblins, who didn't respond. He said impatiently, "Okay, I know you're not so smart. I'll say it once, so listen up. When you go out and see Metal Devourer, don't be afraid. Attack for a while before fleeing. Of course, it's best if you don't flee. The gnome said, if you can last until the end without fleeing, once it ends, each of you gets a clay chicken. Wait, can I have a clay chicken now? A fully armored and helmed goblin raised his hand and asked. This goblin looked strange. From the gap in the helmet, black and white fur peeped out. It looked like a furball was stuffed into the helmet. Who would do such a thing? Another goblin pulled his hand down and said firmly, no, you can't. The gnome glared at the goblins and said, you're here for a gladiator fight, not crosstalk. The gnome muttered softly, how can I do my job? Goblins are being used as gladiators. The crowd started roaring as though someone was cheering. The host started speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, the next wrestling match is the most anticipated event. After Metal Devourer defeated Big Rock Johnson, he has to face more challengers without time for rest and healing. He doesn't even get the chance to go to the toilet. He will be fighting continuously against 50. What, it's not continuous? Let me see. Oh, it's like this. The rowdiness outside erupted again. The host quickly said, he'll battle 50 goblins at once. For Metal Devourer and the goblins, whoever defeats 10 contestants will receive a sizable prize. A high-end, custom-made, and rare piece of equipment. Gladiators, fight hard. The gnome unlocked the chains and said to the 5 goblins, good. It's your turn. Fight courageously, with more violence. The spectators love that. The gnome opened the metal door. 2 goblins unsheathed their short swords and advanced as the other 3 goblins trembled in fear. They walked out of the dark tunnel, and the lights became brighter as the noise became louder. It was the cheering of the crowd. Arthur instinctively grasped the hilt of his sword tightly, and not wearing pants inhaled deeply. I didn't expect the game's PvP to be so realistic. My blood's boiling. Don't forget our strange encounter mission, Arthur said to Not Wearing Pants. Don't worry. When the others see the 3 NPCs without names, they won't attack us. Arthur shook his head and said, that might not be the case. The 3 wobbling goblins behind Arthur and Not Wearing Pants were 3 hamsters stuffed forcibly into armor. The hamsters walked slower and slower. Coo-loo, the 3 hamsters swallowed hard. When they arrived at the end of the tunnel, they were met with bright lights. The 5 of them squinted their eyes at the eye-piercing brilliance, and they were unable to see the spectators. The cheering by the side of their ears indicated what the arena was like. Where was their opponent? Not Wearing Pants became used to the bright lights. He blinked. In front of him was a circular Roman gladiator arena that could accommodate tens of thousands of creatures. In the spectator stands were tens of creatures dispersed all around. The spectators looked so tiny, like the floating bubbles of the ocean. But the cheering was very clear and distinct. Hey, why are you standing there like fools? Fight, we're getting tired. In the corner of the spectator stand was a skeleton wearing a shirt. He was shouting at the dazed goblins. In front of the skeleton was an object similar to a crystal ball. Not Wearing Pants was sure he had seen that before in the ancient ruins, but the actual details were different. Those noises seemed to emanate from the crystal ball. Ka-cha, ka-cha. Not Wearing Pants heard the strange sounds. The particles of clay fell in front of them. He lifted his head and gazed at the nearby spectator stand. A fat gnome was sitting in a nearby spectator stand. He was holding a bucket of clay and was eating and making ka-cha sounds. In the 2 seats beside him were various tidbits. There was a small gnome to the side. On his head was a handmade green cap, which was made of beast skin. He was wearing bell-bottomed pants and holding an unknown red beverage. Dad, why are there goblins? Perhaps they have cash flow problems since the gladiator arena hasn't been popular for the past few years. However, the arena has its charm, the fat gnome said listlessly. Father, I don't want to watch. It's not exciting. It's fake. Can we play with other stuff? It's not easy for you to have a holiday with me. Dad, I want to play the Sky Dragon. The little gnome made a racket. But Dad likes wrestling. Okay, let's go and play Sky Dragon. The fat gnome wanted to watch the gladiator fight, but the little gnome insisted, so he stood up reluctantly and started putting away his food. There were 2 less spectators. Not Wearing Pants lowered his head, and the shouting and cheering of the crowd rang in his ears. They were created using mana since there were only tens of spectators. All of this made not wearing pants confused. The more he thought, the more terrified he felt. The more he thought, the more he felt anger. He discovered a truth of this realistic game. Are the game producers toying with us? Creating such a scene and making a lich play music in front of us? Are they taunting us as silly goblins? You're such weak creatures and want to have millions of spectators? Go and fly kites. It must be like that. DMN. I don't know. Arthur looked dumbfounded. In the arena, the gamers continuously shouted. Lousy game producers. DMNU. DMNU. My blood's boiling. Is it meaningful to create such a scene to taunt us? Be humane. Lousy game producers. I'm going to the discussion forum to smear you to death, you silly dude. And other similar curses. The three hamsters heard the shouts that were filled with killing intent. They squirmed their necks in their helmets. They were unable to squirm any further. Though the gamers were unhappy to see the dismal spectators, the gladiator mission was still ongoing, so they were unable to go offline and post on the discussion forum. Who knew if the mission would be ongoing if they went offline? It was a mission with a title reward. Only 50 of them were selected from the 2,100 gamers. According to the presenter, if they defeated 10 opponents, they could obtain a special and custom-made piece of equipment. Custom-made equipment. Could it be purple legendary equipment? The gamers were unhappy with the scene production. If it wasn't the only virtual reality online game, they would rage quit. Lousy game producers. At least, that was how they felt. However, they yearned for purple legendary equipment. Everyone was preparing for a bitter battle. At that instant, a wyvern flew by, and his screeching reverberated in the entire arena. Dio. The wyvern bellowed and swooped down rapidly. A strong and fully armed gnome jumped down from the back of the wyvern. Palm. The gnome landed using the most effective method, with knees on the ground. I'm Metal Devourer. Nobody can defeat me. Ow. If his knees weren't on the ground, it would be a very imposing entrance. The cheering of the crowd became louder. The fat gnome who was putting away his food laughed a few times before sighing. I've seen this show for tens of years, yet I feel it's interesting. The youngsters nowadays like violence, bloodshed, and excitement. It's, Dad, let's go. I want to play Sky Dragon. The little gnome urged his father. Then, the fat gnome left the arena with his son. Ladies, gentlemen, the most anticipated moment has arrived. Will the goblins have the final victory? Or will our Metal Devourer wipe them clean? Let's wait and see. Make haste and fight. Make haste. I want to see bloodshed. Bloodshed. Fight. Don't waste our tickets. With only 4 shouts from the spectator stands, the other spectators seemed rather civilized. A few gamers started shifting. There were 3 teams, and they shifted towards Arthur. Be careful. They're going to get rid of us. Arthur grasped his short sword and said to not wearing pants. Z. The 3 hamsters let out nervous cries.